Hey guys, welcome back to Psychcinct, Succinct Psychology. Again, my name is Prescott, and we're going to be continuing Chapter 1 of Biopsychology. Just, maybe finish up this video, maybe not, just see how it goes. But we're just going to keep going through the history of biopsychology. And last time we just went over, some important figures in biopsychology's history, started going over World War II, like the beta alpha tests that were developed during that time, and how it contributed to the war effort. So now we've moved on from World War I to World War II, which, 1941, 1945. So they had, like World War I, psychologists were commissioned by the military to develop tests that evaluated soldiers' innate traits and drives. And by correlating those traits with job roles, the tests allow the military to cut down on job dissatisfaction and turnover and improve efficiency. Now, so we had the selection and placement test, the group ability testing, the AGCT, or the Army General Classification Test, was a test of general learning ability and was used by the Army and Marine Corps to assign recruits to military jobs. Now, some 12 million recruits were tested during the AGCT during World War II. And the Navy used a slightly different but similar test, the NGCT, which is Navy General Classification Test, to assign recruits to military jobs. Now you have also situational stress tests, or OSS, which is, no, not or OSS. It was used by the Office of Strategic Services, and they were a series of personality tests developed by psychologists, primarily situational, devised for the selection of, these tests were primarily situational, and they were devised for the selection of candidates for strategic missions during World War II. So the candidates, stress tests were required to face a lot of stresses, conflicts, and other problems that, they were evaluated on their ability to handle those stresses, right? So the assessment lasts 3 days, and over the course of the assessment, candidates were evaluated, and also not just for their ability to deal with those stresses, but just their general personality, like how were they as a person, would they be good for those situations. These military tests actually, obviously led to the development of more employment tests in the industry. And also, I skipped a part there, but there is the early situational test, select trained pilots, measure attitude, morale. So yeah, that's kind of history of biopsychology with World War II. And then we have biopsychology towards specialization, 1946 to 1963. So you saw the development of college and graduate programs in biopsychology, and also the creation of Division 14 of the APA in 1946. And Division 14 was the Society for Industrial and Organizational Psychology. Subspecialties got crystallized. So these subspecialties began to crystallize, and biopsychology became kind of shattered in the sense it wasn't just, not all one encompassing group, where it's just like everything in this that regards to this biopsychology. So, for example, part of IO that specialized in personnel selection, training, and classification became personal psychology. So again, crystallized, kind of broke apart. Continuing on, we have some government intervention, which is always fun and also sometimes fun. 1964 to 1993. So government scrutiny emerged as a second authority to kind of watch over a lot of things. So we have the Civil Rights Act, Title VII, 1964. It led to the reining in of biopsychology. So before, they had free rein to develop psychological assessments such as tests, interviews, and other stuff, which led to a disproportionate amount of minority representation in the workplace, especially in higher level jobs. So Title VII allowed the government to crack down on discriminatory employment practices or development of tests that led to those discriminatory practices. Also led to government scrutiny, regulation of, well, I just said that, uniform employment guidelines. Later on, in 1990, you had the Americans with Disabilities Act. It was an updated version of the Civil Rights Act, which was also designed to resolve inequities in the workplace for Americans with, disabilities, whether it be physical or mental. Then you had the Civil Rights Act 1991 and the Family and Medical Leave Act of 1993, which put in place to give workers 12 weeks of paid leave or unpaid leave to attend to family and medical issues. Now, Iowa psychologists developed tests, the ASVAB, currently used for military selection. The ASVAB is the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, which is used to determine qualification for enlistment into the military. Going on, we have the information age, which is, now we're all caught up, 1994 to the present. So, obviously, internet accelerates change. It's what's called, like, the world's really small now. And, before you had to go to the library and find books about what your paper was on, and now you can just Google it. So having that kind of access accelerates change, share information with other parts of the world much easier. Explosive growth in internet websites. You think back to the early days of the internet. If I'm not old enough to remember it much, a little bit old enough, but very early days of the internet, really small compared to what we have today, where one Google search and you'll get like 2 billion views, or not views, 2 billion websites popped up. So it's crazy how much the internet has grown in such a short amount of time. For example, like big websites, Facebook, LinkedIn, MySpace for social media. Then you had Google, eBay, Amazon, Alibaba, which is modern information-based companies. So again, well, obviously Google is information-based. You Google things to find out about stuff or find a website information. The advent of e-business and the virtual workplace, especially with COVID, everybody had to go on lockdown and transfer to Zoom, which has kind of changed how work kind of works because, companies found out that, we don't have to necessarily have our employees come into the office and sit at the desk from 9 to 5. We can have them work from home and accomplish their task there. So that's become especially prevalent in the past year. Speed of delivery, so speed of delivery of information and also, I guess, Amazon packages. So the concept of the job, like I kind of just said, where you're just okay, go clock in, sit at your desk, do some work, clock out. It kind of begins to erode as, technology and information changes. And telecommuting and virtual teams mean work is no longer a physical place. So like I said, especially this past year, you don't have to have a physical workplace. You don't have to go to the office or go to the factory. You have to go to the factory if you're working manual labor job. Unfortunately, they haven't invented technology where you can do that virtually yet. So continuing on, the future of biopsychology. So now we're all caught up. So let's talk about the future of it. So biopsychology is a growing field making a big difference in the world. And I actually, I saw on some biopsychology, I think it was Valdosta University, they had when you Google it, pull up their website for an biopsychology graduate program, I was talking about how much it was going to grow, percentage-wise as a field in demand in 2022. And I can't remember the exact amount, but it was some crazy high number, not 90% or something, but if I'm remembering correctly, I think 55%. So yeah, it's, a big growing field, and it's really making a difference. Especially think about what I was saying earlier, biopsychology is about, helping workers adapt to changing environments and with their workplace and their jobs. And so think about the impact that biopsychologists had on this past year when everybody went from, just whole life been going into work, clocking in, and now all of a sudden they're, having meetings through Zoom and having to do their stuff online, all this kind of stuff. It's multidisciplinary in both its content and the methods of inquiry. And biopsychology can have a tremendous impact influencing humanitarian and environmental efforts. And we'll talk about that especially. And wait, let me see. Not this slide, but next slide. Now, cross-cultural biopsychology includes global issues, differences in time spent engaged in work, values differences. So what this means is, cross-cultural refers to differences in culture. Like, for example, some Asian countries, I don't want to say this, but from what I understand, in like Japan, they work all the time, it's just a culture thing. Whereas in other countries, they might not have the same attitude to work. Like certain countries, certain cultures are very dedicated to working long hours and working very hard. Other countries might not be so. So, IO psychology kind of works with like that cross-cultural aspect, the differences in workplaces, work environments, that kind of thing. So like I was saying, value differences, the length of the work week. Some countries value really long work weeks, like you're, looked better upon if you've worked a 70-hour work week. And some countries aren't that, don't value working that much. So kind of, lazy versus compulsive, that kind of thing. But just realize this video is going on for a good bit. So I'm going to wrap up this video here, guys. Just a few more points to go over in chapter 1 in the next video. I hope to see you guys then. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, my name is Prescott. I'm here at Psychcinct, Succinct Psychology. And I will see you guys hopefully next time. Thanks. Bye.